welcome to SVG TV's news for Friday, November 25th, 2022. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. As St. Vincent and the Grenadines observes International Day to End Violence Against Women and Girls today, Friday, November 25th, an appeal has been made by the president of the SVG Council of Women, Beverly Richards, for men and boys to show more respect to women and girls. International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, observed under the theme United Activism to End Violence Against Women and Girls, coincides with the global 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence, which is a moment to reflect, renew, amplify, and strategies to achieve commitments to eliminate violence against women by 2030.
The promise of the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, to leave no one behind, cannot be fulfilled without putting an end to violence against women and girls. At the workplace, everything can go on, from harassment to extreme acts of violence. Women do not need to give up or feel up to get and keep your job. We all have the right to a safe workplace where women are not exploited by their superiors for sexual favors. We must transform this dehumanizing attitude that is woven into the culture of so many workplaces. Proper complaints departments needed to be established to effectively deal with perpetrators. We cannot pride ourselves on being fair. We cannot pride ourselves on being fair and equal until women and girls can live free of fear, violence, and insecurity, particularly at places where they earn their living. We have to empower our girls to protect themselves and control their lives.
Richard said that sexual violence is on the rise in St. Vincent and the Grenadines and strongly condemns this act, which she said is perpetrated because of lack of respect men and boys have for women and girls.
We do know and have seen that sexual violence is on the rise. Rape or gang rape, particularly in our schools among our teenagers. Filming of sex. Particularly, we do know and have seen that sexual violence is on the rise. Rape or gang rape, particularly in our schools among our teenagers. Filming of sexual violent acts. Sexual torture against women is increasing at an alarming rate, and these gruesome acts are resulting in death. The violence cycle goes on when vulnerable children are left in care of irresponsible family members who sometimes would rape and sexually assault these children. Unfair treatment and gruesome death of our men and boys leaves our women and girls hurting, destitute, and vulnerable.
The NCW president encouraged citizens to become activists for the prevention of violence against women and girls, noting that violence against women and girls continue to be an obstacle for them in achieving equality, peace, development, and fulfillment of their human rights.
And to stand in solidarity with the women's activists under the theme Unite Activism to End Violence Against Women and Girls. We don't need special training or special skill set to get involved. Each and every one of us should work to change everything for the better. The scale of gender-based violence, and especially violence against women and girls, is unknown to us in our society. But according to the United Nations, only 40% of these matters are reported, while 1 in every 3 women have experienced some form of sexual violence. The National Council of Women expresses condolences, deep condolences, to all who have been affected in one way or the other by some form of violence. Let us all become advocates for the elimination of violence against women and girls. Let our voices be voice of peace as we help to shape social behaviors and norms. We must encourage and perform good moral influences and practices, teaching responsibility and respect for men and women. According to United Nations, more than 5 women or girls are killed every hour by someone in their own family. United Nations Women Executive Director Sima Mahu stated, "It is an uncomfortable truth that for some women and girls, rather than being in a place of safety, as it should be, home can be deadly."
The Ministry of National Mobilization and Gender Affairs hosted a rally in capital Kingstown to commemorate International Day to Eliminate Violence Against Women and Girls and the start of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. The activities by the ministry are being held under the theme "A Brighter Future for All, Free from Gender-Based Violence." Minister of National Mobilization Orlando Brewster, who addressed the rally in capital Kingstown, encouraged Vincentians to say no to violence against women and girls. Other upcoming activities to be hosted by the Ministry of National Mobilization include a month-long training in self-defense, a church service on Sunday, November 27th, a radio program on Monday, November 29th, a social media campaign, and a panel discussion. And the Marion House, with support from UN Women and Richmond Vale Academy, has commenced a 4-month capacity training to address family violence. As we hear in this report, skills will also be taught for sustainable livelihood.
In 4 months' time, these women would be trained activists, advocates, trainers, whistleblowers, and mentors. Challenging the participants, who were mostly women, Marion House Director Jeannie Oliver says government and organizations like Marion House cannot do it alone.
You will report. The Domestic Violence Act of 2015 says that if you know and you don't talk, you can be charged. You can be arrested and charged. You know why? Because you may be able to save a life or save lives if you open your mouth and speak. And don't bother with who say you're talking too much.
Today kickstarts the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. But the Marion House Director notes that this should not be the only time when awareness is heightened, but rather it should be all year round. The root causes of domestic violence were highlighted, and some of them included a breakdown in family values, morality, a fearful and insensitive society, and a lack of knowledge on basic human rights.
I also learned that, education is power. Knowledge is a huge thing, and if we know our rights and what to stand for and what not to accept, we can make a difference in St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
And understand better the role of advocacy, where you can reach out and speak for those who have no voice or are being fearful.
I am a person that really always say it's not wise to meddle in the affairs of others. But today I will change my course when it comes to domestic violence. It is no longer your affair, but mine as well.
The 4 months training is a collaboration with the Richmond Vale Academy and UN Women. A model of an ecological garden will be developed at Marion House, and each participant is expected to share their knowledge in their respective communities. Today being International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women, hundreds of human rights booklets were distributed in downtown Kingstown. Larissa Pugsley-Kidd, SVG TV News.
In other news, the Director of the National Insurance Services, Stuart Haynes, has recommended a deadline of 2024 for pension reform in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Haynes, who was addressing members of the media during a consultation earlier this week, said if this deadline is not met, draconian measures may have to be introduced, noting that the NIS is currently unsustainable in the medium and long term if there are no changes to the current system. Haynes explained that with no harmonizations between the NIS and the civil service pension or public service pension as it relates to retirement ages and the replacement rate, individually and collectively, these systems could face long-term sustainability challenges.
Owing to dramatically increasing benefits, as a result, we are in an aging population. The funds are maturing, and the design currently is generous. So we need to make some changes. That's what reform about, making changes to the system to ensure the systems are sustainable.
The NIS director said that current pension systems, which is wholly funded by the government, is too generous and unsustainable, noting that currently some people could receive more than 120% of their past earnings as pension, since retirement civil servants are entitled to both government and NIS pensions.
The typical 127% is unique. It's unsustainable for our small island of St. Vincent. So our current system is broken by design because there are no integration between ages or replacement rates. Very generous. In all my consultations with IMF in the Article 4 visits to St. Vincent, this is an issue that we always talk about. The systems are running parallel and need to be harmonized.
Pointing to reforms that have taken place in other OECS countries such as St. Lucia, where public pension systems were gradually phased out, Haynes said critical to a defined benefit system that is sustainable in a growing economy, favorable demographics, which is ideally more youthful than aging, and good design.
We need design so that these systems can be sustainable. When we look at the benefit formula, it must be a sustainable design. And design changes too. Participants, when you craft and you design Social Security at inception, is with the view that at some point it will change. Because why? The contextual environment changes. The economy changes, the demographic changes, all them impact costs, so the design must change. So it's not static. Not that we design contribution rate and it stick there for life. Not that we design retirement age and it stay there for the life of the system, no. As actuary, when we design for a period. Actually, we call it, we design for a period of equilibrium where we would have contribution income because we partially funded, added to investment income for a period, and when we see total expenditure approaching total income, then we do some redesign to make the system sustainable.
The NIS director said efficient and effective administration and good governance are also critical for a good defined benefits program. And an update now on the next 72 hours weather outlook for SVG. The St. Vincent and the Grenadines Met Office says residual moisture associated with the passage of a trough system will continue to generate occasional cloudy skies with showers over some areas of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. The Met Office says the latest forecast model guide suggests that on Saturday a surface to low-level trough will approach and begin to affect SVG with a few light to moderate scattered showers, and during Sunday rainfall activity is predicted to increase in frequency and intensity, thus resulting in pockets of heavy showers and chances of isolated thunderstorms. Residents living in areas prone to flash flooding and landslides or near rivers and streams are asked to be on the alert. Occasional breezy conditions are also expected to persist with northeasterly to easterly winds ranging between 9 to 19 ranging between 9 to 19 miles per hour. However, the Met Office says an increase to near 25 miles per hour is expected by late Sunday. Sea swells are expected to remain moderate in open waters, ranging between 1.5 to 2.5 meters. Small craft operators and sea bathers should continue to exercise caution for all above normal sea swells. The Met Office says on Monday, as the low-level trough continues its westward movement away from the region, a gradual improvement in conditions will be experienced. Still on the local scene, persons who intend to bring in meat and meat products into St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the festive season are asked to obtain a permit to do so and on export health certificates from the country of origin. This is according to Dr. Malaika Glasgow of the Animal Health and Production Division, who noted that the Ministry of Agriculture is required to continue the regulatory work to ensure the safety of meat and meat products entering the country. Highlighting the procedures, Dr. Glasgow says whether it is by air or sea, an import permit is required for all meat and meat products that will be arriving in the country.
And safe manner. Well, the first thing you have to do is apply for permission to bring in the meat and the meat products. You do that by sending in an application to our office at the Animal Health and Production Division at the Ministry of Agriculture. You can submit it in person or via email. The email address is ahpdvetdivision@hotmail.com. So the application form has to be filled in triplicate. If it's submitted via email, you would just submit one copy. But when you come to collect the permit that has been issued to you, you would have to bring in the hard copies to be able to take it to the Ministry of Trade to continue the processing. The processing actually takes a minimum of 3 working days for the application to be processed. And once it's finished, you would then take it to the Ministry of Trade for final processing, and that's when your permit is complete and you have permission to bring in the meat and meat products. On this application, you would have to have the name of the importer and exporter, importer and exporter address, and the name of the product, quantity, and an approximate value for the items. What we are referring to when we say meat and meat products, we are referring to hams, turkeys, fresh meat, could be canned meat as well, depending on the quantities. But all meat and meat products, you're supposed to get permission to bring into St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Dr. Glasgow said the measures being put in place are to ensure that no meat or meat products with disease enter the country, so as to protect the general public and the livestock population.
Because there are diseases that can be transmitted through the meat, diseases such as BSE, E. coli, avian influenza, African swine fever, which is a disease that's actually in the region right now in the Dominican Republic and Haiti, that are destroying their livestock population and people's livelihoods. So we're just trying to ensure that we do not have that situation happening here, and that all the meat that comes in is safe to eat and safe for the livestock population. Meat is available here. It just, what may be available may not be some of the particular cuts that people want, or they think that the expense, it's cheaper where they have it. Many different factors why persons may decide to bring meat in, but we just have to make sure that whatever they want to bring in is safe and acceptable.
The vet outlined some problems faced in the past with people importing meat and meat products without permission.
Counted would be people arriving without permission, bringing in items that we would not give permission for, whether they come from countries that we don't do trade with, or items that are potentially dangerous to our livestock because of maybe where they come from or what product it is. Those are the major issues, including sometimes animals. This process, even though I'm at this point, we're focusing on meat and meat products. This also pertains to animals, people bringing in their pets. We don't want to have any animals arriving that we don't know where they're coming from. We don't know what is their health status, and because we also have very specific conditions for people bringing animals into the country for the same reasons, to protect our population and the animal population here. Well, we would just like everyone to cooperate and work with us so that we can ensure that our population stays safe and everyone can have an enjoyable festive season with all of their meat and meat products that are safe to consume.
The Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment will conduct a mass casualty simulation exercise tomorrow, Saturday, November 26, 2022. The simulation exercise will take place at the Arnesville Sporting Complex from 4 p.m. A simulation exercise, or SIMEX, is a fictional disaster event created with the purpose of testing the plans and procedures that would come into effect during a real emergency, helping to identify strengths and weaknesses. The annual Christmas road cleaning program is scheduled to commence on Monday, November 28, 2022. A news release says the program, which is a collaborative effort between BRACSA and the Economic Planning Division in the Ministry of Finance, will see the employment of 5,733 persons across the island and as well as the Grenadines. These will include 499 gangs, 743 jobbers who will be responsible for the cutting of trees and cleaning of roads in all 15 constituencies. Contracts will also be given to over 100 truckers and conductors. The 8-day program is being done at an estimated cost of $3 million. The release says the road cleaning program is being undertaken as part of the labor-intensive temporary program LIGHT, which falls under the Volcano Eruption Emergency Project VEEP in the Ministry of Finance. BRACSA is appealing to motorists and pedestrians to take necessary precautions during the cleanup program.